دوري في القرية، الدور اللي قمت به دايما من بداية حياتي العملية هو التوعية والتثقيف للوصول بالمجتمع نحو الأفضل. بلاقي كتير معارضة، لكن بحاول بالإقناع إن أنا أقنعهم، سواء برأي العلم أو رأي الطب أو رأي التربية أو الأضرار والمخاطر اللي موجودة في المجتمع. عادة الختان دي عادة سيئة. مريت بهذه التجربة مع بناتي في البيت تحت ضغط وعادات خاطئة طبعا من السيدات الكبيرات، لكن بفضل الله رغم ان تعرض بعض بناتي لهذه العادة السيئة إلا أني قدرت أنجو بواحدة منهن.
جه الوقت انه خلاص زينب اختي هيجي الوقت عليها وخلاص لازم تتختن، وجدتي كانت مصره جدا. انا اتكلمت بشكل واضح، قلت لها يا ستي انه اللي انت بتعمليه ده غلط، وانا عندي 1 2 3 4. وما بدات تتكلم بقى وبدات توعي. تيتا اقتنعت بصراحه واعتذرت لينا هي امي ان هم عملوا فينا كده، وقالوا قرروا ان هم زينب مش هيعملوا فيها اللي حصل فينا. بدات اشتغل على موضوعات الختان في فتره كورونا. بدأنا سنة كاملة بنعمل الجلسات عن الختان. بدأنا ناخد الجلسات ونشتغل الجلسات كلها اونلاين. بدأت اتعمد ان انا افتح المايك. بدأوا هم يستجيبوا ويسمعوا. بدأوا يسألوني طب ليه هو ختان غلط؟ ليه صحيا غلط؟ ليه اجتماعيا غلط؟ طب هو بيأثر على البنت ازاي؟ بدأت انا اتكلم واتناقش معاهم، وبدأوا يفهموا ويستوعبوا اللي انا بقوله. مهم جدا الراجل يشارك في مناضله الختان او الممارسات الضاره او العنف عموما. ليه؟ لانه ربنا خلقنا 2 ذكر وانثى. هنتقابل فين؟ هنتقابل في الحوار وفي المناقشه. ومهم قوي يعرف العادات الصحيه والاجتماعيه والتاثير كمان على ده. لو عرف بالتالي هيبدا ياثر في اقرانه والدايره اللي هي بره. لما بنيجي نتكلم عن الختان بيبقى الرجاله بتتكسف ان هي تتكلم عن النقطه دي.
دوري كأب في البيت التوعية باستمرار، ما بملش يعني، وبرضه مع أهل القرية توعية وجلسات التثقيف، وبنقعد مع بعض وبنتكلم في الموضوع ده، وبنحاول إن احنا نقنعهم على أساس إن دي ممارسة ضارة صحيا بالمرأة، ومفيش دليل ليها من الدين،
لانه بدوره هيحصل طفره في مناطق العنف. هنا عندنا في القرى البنت اخرها بره، اذا كانت في الكليه او مدرسه او اي حاجه، اخرها الساعه 5. الساعه 5 الدق لازم تكون في البيت. لا احنا كان بيسيبنا نروح معسكرات، بنروح محافظات تانية بعيده جدا، يعني كان سفر. كان دايما يقول اطلعوا وشوفوا الحياه، ما تخافوش وواجهوا. وما بيتكسفش ابدا انه يقول ان انا عندي بنات وبتروح وبتيجي، وبيبقى فخور جدا كل الفخر وهو بيتكلم عننا. يعني انا دايما بشوف الفخر في عينيه، وانا ممتنه جدا لده. كان ما عندكش مشكله انه يتقال علينا دايرين؟
لا انا ما عنديش مشكله في الكلام ده، لان انا مربي بناتي صح وعارف تربيتي.
فيا رب يفضلوا دايما في ظهرنا، لان احنا فعلا من غيرهم ولا حاجه ان شاء الله. بس
راي المجتمع
متغير،
ما الغلط وما يشغلكش
صح
طالما انت ماشيه صح.
فانا على المستوى الشخصي بقيت معها بسببه. شكرا حقيقي يا بابا ان انت سمحت لنا نشوف الدنيا بعينيك وبقلبك، وكمان انا ممتنه للفرص اللي انت اديتها لنا.
قدرت ان انا اوصل ببناتي لبر الامان، ويبقى لهم تاثير على المجتمع حواليهم، مش في القريه بتاعتي بس دلوقتي حاليا، لا ده يعني بناتي بيأثروا دلوقتي على مستوى الجمهوريه.
عايزه اقول ان هو عمره ما قص جناحاتنا، لا هو سابنا نطير
حقيقي.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining us from across the globe. We welcome you all to today's event to commemorate the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation. The striking video we just watched is a heartfelt father's story in standing up against FGM. 4 of 5 of his daughters have been cut, and he faces a lot of resistance. But he firmly believes his role in his village is to raise awareness, to educate, and to convince his community by relying on medical and scientific justification that female genital mutilation is a harmful practice to society that must stop. These are the men and boy champions that fight to eliminate FGM that we need everywhere. Everyone watching from YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, we invite you to use the chat box and tell us who you are and where you're joining from. Please send us your comments throughout the broadcast and join our online community using hashtag MEnEndFGM on social media. We actually have a comment from S. Amelia from LinkedIn saying, I'm following from Liberia. The issue of female genital mutilation is very serious in my country. Every year, the global community observes the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation on the 6th of February to raise awareness, renew commitments, and reiterate that female genital mutilation is an unacceptable, harmful practice and a violation of girls' and women's rights. This year, we are commemorating the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation under the theme Partnership with Men and Boys to Transform Social and Gender Norms to End FGM. Women and girls are at the forefront of the End of FGM movement. And while we continue to support their leadership to end a practice that affects their bodily autonomy, we also need to rally others. With 8 years remaining in this decade of action, various initiatives have been employed by UNFPA, UNICEF, their global partners, and local stakeholders around the world to engage and strengthen partnership with men and boys. These initiatives have resulted in a surge of male allies, such as religious and traditional leaders, health workers, law enforcement officials, members of civil society, and grassroots organizations. The voices and actions of men and boys can transform the deeply rooted social and gender norms underpinning the practice, allowing girls and women agency to realize their rights and potential in terms of health, education, income, and equality. Once again, for those joining us through social media platforms, we invite you to join our online campaign and engage with today's broadcast using hashtag MEnEndFGM. My name is Undombi Meso, and I'll be your MC for today. Today, we will hear voices from a number of global and local actors, including representation from governments, United Nations agencies, civil society organizations, and activists who have all come together to share their experience and reaffirm their commitments to the Sustainable Development Goal 5.3 on the elimination of harmful practices, including female genital mutilation by 2030. We've got another comment coming from Frefau from LinkedIn saying, at the European Parliament, we just concluded a meeting about men opposing FGM organized. That's wonderful news. We kick off the event with strong young voices and allies leading the End FGM movement online and on the ground. Let's hear from Nicholas Smith, an artivist from the United States, Arifa Bukari Kumara, the founder of Her Future Foundation in Sierra Leone, and Dr. Kosli Aderigbe, Executive Secretary at the Global Youth Consortium Against FGM from Nigeria.
With every humanitarian crisis, there is an opportunity to transform and challenge social and gender norms, including harmful practices like FGM. As an artivist, I speak through art, and with my piece called Scarred, I want to create a dialogue around female genital mutilation because it affects each and every one of us. This is not just a women's issue. This young woman could be your sister, your cousin, your friend, your daughter. And the trauma that she's endured because of FGM is something that is going to stay with her for the rest of her life. It's time for us as men to publicly voice our opposition to this practice so that it can be eliminated. Our role is to champion and protect girls and women all around the world. As leaders, as community gatekeepers, as advocates, as policymakers, as artists, or simply as a man, a brother, a cousin, an uncle, a dad. Join me and UNFPA on February 6th for the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation.
My role as a male champion in the campaign against FGM has been so credible and impactful here in Sierra Leone because I mobilize communities, I mobilize men and boys, I mobilize resources to support victims and survivors of FGM. So to colleague men and boys, I think some of the social and gender norms we need to overcome in order for us to contribute to the elimination of FGM is our thinking against women and girls. We should think positively against women and girls. We should stop the gender stereotyping. We should encourage our mothers, encourage our sisters, and encourage our aunties to stop the practice of female genital mutilation, and coupled with our political quest for power.
You claim you love your daughter, but yet you subject her to FGM. Female genital mutilation, also known as female genital cutting, affects the today and poses a dangerous risk to the tomorrow of the girl child. Men and boys are key players and partners in the advocacy to end FGM, and as such, we must design specific communication and sensitization activities directly targeting men and boys. We must engage men and boys in real conversation that speaks to our conscience as humans. We must provide safe spaces for men and boys to express themselves and seek value clarification. Fathers, brothers, uncles should speak out and take a bold stand against FGM. Young men should not feel less in marrying girls that are not cut. An household must abandon gender roles and treat boys and girls with equal respect and dignity. We must raise boys to respect the rights of women and girls as human rights. My father, husband, brothers, and friends strongly oppose FGM, and now my daughter is not mutilated. I call on men and boys to support the women and girls in their families and communities in their movements to end FGM. Let's ensure laws and policies are in place to protect women and girls' rights and dignity to be free from FGM.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Nicholas, Arifa, and Dr. Cosley all take an active role in their own spaces to invite as well as engage men to be part of this very important journey of zero tolerance for female genital mutilation. We actually have another comment from LinkedIn. This one is coming from Majaliwa saying, "Together we can fight these disasters." That's true. Dr. Kanem will tell us why we need partnership with men and boys to transform social and gender norms to end FGM. Over to you, Dr. Kanem.
This year, in 2023, 4.3 million girls are at risk of undergoing female genital mutilation. Any number beyond 0 is unacceptable. Harmful gender and social norms are at the root of female genital mutilation, FGM. They limit girls' ability to make decisions about their own bodies and lives. These norms can no longer be the norm. Mindsets need to shift, power dynamics need to change, and for this to happen, men and boys need to be part of the solution. At UNFPA, we're engaging men and boys to promote the rights of women and girls and instill values of equality, consent, and respect. Over the past 5 years, UNFPA's joint global program with UNICEF supported more than 3,000 FGM initiatives involving men and boys. From youth leaders to tribal elders, more and more men and boys are stepping up and speaking out against FGM. We need to reach more of them, including through community dialogues, peer education, and faith-based advocacy. The partnership of men and boys is vital to driving positive change. On this International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, let us all commit to expand our alliances and mobilize everyone, including men and boys, to build a world safe, free from FGM by the year 2030, because all girls have the right to bodily autonomy and bodily integrity. They have the right to say no to FGM and yes to delaying marriage, to staying in school, and to charting their own destiny. They deserve an equal future with infinite possibilities. That future is in their hands. It's in our hands.
That was Dr. Natalia Kanem, the Executive Director of UNFPA, the United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency. And she's absolutely right. Women and girls do deserve an equal future with infinite possibilities, free from FGM. We're still looking at all our social media platforms, and we've got another comment from Ruth Adenike from Nigeria saying, I'm glad that finally we globally have men involvement and engagement to end this practice of FGM. I believe with this, we will have a better result this year. Hashtag end FGM. Let's go over some achievements of the joint program in the past decade. Global efforts have accelerated progress towards the elimination of female genital mutilation, FGM, both in terms of opposition and actual reduction in the prevalence of the practice. Over 45 million people have publicly declared the abandonment of female genital mutilation in the last decade. And men and boys amongst these millions of people play a vital role in challenging power dynamics in their families and harmful social norms practiced in their communities, and more importantly, in supporting women and girls as agents of change. How are these social norms created? How can they be transformed? What are we willing to leave behind? Let's tune in with an open heart to hear a poem by Justina Kehinde, Not Everything We Inherit is a Gift to be Passed On.
Not everything we inherit is a gift to be passed on. Not everything we inherit is a gift to be passed on, she said, as she slipped the soles of her feet from tired bones, bound them in blue ribbon, and offered them as something old, something owed. These feet, calloused and creased, were borrowed from her father's family tree. See, she had been carrying her ancestors before she could even articulate her own identity. This body, this parcel of past generations that creaked under the weight of traditions and customs, began its final journey with a question: what are we willing to leave? She had already left behind her mouth, complete with instructions explaining how it should laugh where it once wept and sing where it once screamed, yet also scream and speak and breathe if we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. Then she loved the way her mouth smiled wider, since it had been inherited by her niece. She left the dance in her right hip to a nephew, unclasped her spine, that column of courage that had neither wavered nor withered. She knew they would need her backbone in 2 generations' time. And eyes that had seen so much, tilted heavenwards towards that never-ending sky, knowing that there were some things she would not leave behind. She took the silence with her, that uninvited guest, to the parts of her culture that cut bodies until they ended up being less. She took the rites of passage that violated her rights, denounced the idea that goodness is found in clothes that are loose and bodies that are tight. She took the culture of blame that had exonerated generations of men from the violence they had wreaked on the bodies, the minds, and the souls of everyone less powerful than them. She took the low expectations, too narrow to give birth to something as wild and wonderful as a full and autonomous human. She took all her misery gathered every yes when she wanted to say no that slipped out of her body, unearthed every twisted conception of love that had dug itself into the soil of her soul, for she had eaten from that tree of knowledge and knew that if she left those blighted seeds behind, they would only fester and grow. Not everything we inherit is a gift to be passed on, she said, clasping the scars in her right hand and the pain in her left. Not everything we inherit is a gift to be passed on if the past is filled with death and destruction. In the end, the things that survive are the things we leave behind. It's true what they say. Only death presides when we fail to protect the dignity of life. Not everything we inherit is a gift to be passed on. We gain more than we lose when we choose to move on.
Indeed, we gain more than we lose when we choose to move on and away from all the harmful norms that endanger women's and girls' bodily integrity. We've got more comments coming through via social media. This one is from Wael Ol Orim from Yemen. Integrated multi-sectorial responses are needed to end FGM, and strategies for engaging different sectors should be tailored the sector's needs and priorities. Those were powerful words indeed from Justina Kihende, a strong feminist voice and artivist, putting together that incredible poem for us. Numbers can be promising when we know that in the last 4 years, UNFPA and UNICEF supported over 3,000 initiatives where men and boy coalitions actively advocate for the elimination of female genital mutilation. Numbers can also be alarming when we know that we need to work at least 10 times faster to meet the global goal of 0 cases of female genital mutilation by 2030. How can we get there? The answer is in 2 words: collective investments. A recent estimate by UNFPA indicates a $2.1 billion financial resource gap to eliminate female genital mutilation by 2030 in 31 priority countries. As a result, concrete and accelerated effort is needed within the framework of the decade of action towards meeting the SDG target by 2030. Despite this gap, there is an army of partners who generously fund the work of the UNFPA UNICEF joint program on the elimination of female genital mutilation. These include the governments of Belgium, Canada, France, Germany, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Norway, Spain, Sweden, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and the European Union. And this year, we are very pleased to welcome the new donors of the joint program, the governments of Belgium, Canada, and Germany. Now, allow me to introduce you to one of our donors and partners, the UK Minister of State, Development and Africa at the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, His Excellency, the Right Honourable Andrew Mitchell, MP.
Today, I am joining voices around the world to unite against female genital mutilation. The British government is steadfast in our determination to end it for good and in our commitment to comprehensive sexual and reproductive health rights so that women and girls have control over their bodies. Female genital mutilation is, of course, one of the most extreme manifestations of violence and control. It's underpinned by powerful and deeply embedded social norms, and men and boys have a crucial role to play in bringing about change. I am proud to be a male ally standing up against female genital mutilation. The UK has been supporting men and boys to challenge FGM and power dynamics through community dialogues, peer education, intergenerational dialogues, and faith-based advocacy. We will continue to build a network of male allies amongst health professionals, law enforcement officials, community and religious leaders, and civil society to protect women and girls. At least 200 million girls and women live with the effects of female genital mutilation. Around 68 million girls are at risk of FGM this decade, which is why, together, we must go further and faster to end FGM. On this International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, the British government reaffirms its commitment to end this violation of human rights by working with women and girls and men and boys and governments and grassroots organisations to speak out for change and to bring an end to FGM. Together we can help all women and girls exercise their rights, enjoy their freedoms, and achieve their potential.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Honourable Andrew Mitchell, for your alliance against female genital mutilation. We are equally delighted to have these commitments from the British government. We've got more comments on social media. This one coming from Corey Habib, Media Associate at UNFPA. And then the message is, in Nigeria, we just got ministers to join the endorsement with a strong voice to end FGM at the United Nations building, knowing the country is third globally as a contributor to this act. We've got another one from Samuel via YouTube saying these social gender norms must no longer be the norm. A strong one there by Dr. Natalia Kanem. Thank you so much for your comments. Now let's give an opportunity to Sweden, who will be making an important announcement today. Allow me to welcome Her Excellency Elizabeth Harleman, the Head of Development Cooperation at the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency.
My name is Elizabeth Harleman. I'm head of Sweden's regional team for sexual reproductive health and rights for Africa. Ending female genital mutilation is about ensuring the enjoyment of universal human rights for all girls and women. To achieve the global goal of eliminating FGM to the year 2030, efforts need to be accelerated. Every year, over 4 million girls globally are at risk of being subject to the violation of FGM. To do this, we need to address the underlying causes to why this harmful and in most countries illegal practice still continues. Therefore, we need to work with prevailing unequal gender and social norms, and ultimately the power relations between men and women. Engaging boys and men at all levels in work is key. In schools, in families, in the community, within traditional and religious leaders and political leaders, to be able in the long run to shift social norms, change behaviors, and break gender norms that prevent girls and women from their full potential. Sweden is a long-term and committed partner in the work on gender equality and sexual and reproductive health and rights, including the fight against FGM. Therefore, I'm happy to announce that Sweden recently decided on continued support to the UNFPA UNICEF joint program on eliminating FGM with approximately $18 million for the coming 3 years.
A powerful commitment in action. Much thanks to you, Your Excellency Elizabeth Harleman. We appreciate Sweden's continued support in our efforts towards zero tolerance for female genital mutilation. Here's another comment from Teresa Adda, Prevention of Sexual Exploitation and Abuse Program Specialist, saying, greetings from Bangladesh. Indeed, the partnership with men and boys is vital to promoting the rights of women and girls using that hashtag #EndFGM. The government of Italy is one of the first donors to the joint program on the elimination of FGM, and we are very pleased today to welcome His Excellency Maurizio Massari, the permanent representative of Italy to the United Nations.
The female genital mutilation is still a major concern in several countries of the world, and Africa in particular. It is alarming that in 2023, women and girls are still subject to this harmful practice. FGMs not only have serious and irreversible consequences on the physical and psychological development of girls, they also represent an enormous hindrance to the achievement of gender equality and women's empowerment. More than 200 million women and girls alive today have undergone female genital mutilation. The fight against female genital mutilation has been at the heart of the Italian international cooperation for about 2 decades as a part of our action to end gender-based violence. The clock of the 2030 agenda is ticking, and countries have only 7 years to ensure that the SDG target 5.3, entitled Zero FGM, is achieved. The UNFPA UNICEF joint program is an excellent example on how to promote gender equality. We are proud to have been one of the first donors of this program and to be one of its 3 top donors globally. Italy, through its development cooperation, has also been engaging men and boys in its bilateral and multilateral initiatives. In this important International Day of Zero Tolerance for FGM, Italy stands ready to continue working to end this heinous violation of human rights. Women and girls are born free, so let them be free.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency Maurizio Massari. The UNFPA UNICEF Joint Program truly values Italy's contributions and all our donors. Tell us what you think in the chat or online using the hashtag MenEndFGM you see in the lower bar. Let's go to some of the comments that we're seeing on our social media platforms. We've got one from Lasina Zerbo via YouTube saying, "Together we reiterate our commitment against FGM as a grave violation of the rights of women and girls." And we've got another one from Samuel Adewumi who says there is the need to intensify advocacy and sensitization campaigns in the rural areas. Another one from Samuel Sawalda via YouTube saying, "Let us all stand up to hashtag end FGM everywhere in the world." Remember, the hashtag to use is hashtag MenEndFGM. Men and boys play an important role in awareness raising, enabling safe environments for women and girls, and sometimes in stopping female genital mutilation from happening in their own households. How do they do that? Let's hear from 2 champions, Leshan Kereto from Kenya and Joseph Kiza from Uganda, and a feminist advocate from Egypt, Rim Al-Shafai.
As a young person, I advocate for positive masculinity, which corresponds to an violent, democratic, peaceful, inclusive, co-responsible, demonstrative, and committed attitude towards women. Through this consultation, I want to build an alternative masculinity and invite other young people to participate in an egalitarian, inclusive societies capable of offering the same opportunities for everyone.
We were able to arrange a community dialogue in one of the Muslim communities in Gambia, and once we have introduced our topic, men and boys started to leave, claiming that FGM is a woman thing and it's just a waste of their times to join. So we have convinced them to carry on with the conversation, and we can talk at the end whether or not FGM affect them or not. So after the end of the discussion, they were so excited to join the conversation, and they have promised us to start boys club to talk about FGM. And they have informed us that they have always been excluded from the conversation. If there is a community dialogue, they are never been invited to it. If they are talking about FGM in schools, they are asked to leave the class. But after the discussion, they understood the idea of the privilege and the power dynamics. Men, when we talk about power dynamics, has more power in the society. Their voices are more heard and more respected. And that's why they have to be allies to our conversation and our fight against the FGM. So, in the day of zero tolerance against the FGM, I invite all men and boys to join the fight and to be our allies in ending FGM, hopefully before 2030.
As a male working in the media industry, I feel a very strong sense of duty to be a part of this global effort of trying to transform social and gender norms in accelerating an end to FGM. And of course, this is through the stories I and my colleagues write. And to tell or write these stories, I must speak with the people who are directly affected, and it's through their voices and shared experiences that the society at large gets to know or to understand the problem that is existing, and this, in this case, is FGM. And also how the different stakeholders can chip in and find solutions to the problem. So in line with this year's theme, and also keeping in mind that we are, 7 years away from the 2030 target of reaching 0 FGM cases, I believe it's very important right now to include more voices of men and boys in the stories of FGM that I write and publish. It is also very important that males in society change the way they think about women, especially in a world where more girls now and women are getting empowered through education and also through leadership. So as I pledge to continue seeking more stories that can help to bring an end to FGM, I urge colleagues in our industry, that's the media industry, to do the same. Let's write more stories on FGM, and hopefully we shall see no more of this problem at the turn of this decade.
When passionate about the cause, young people can show us the way and lead us to reach our goal to end FGM. Thank you for your efforts and for your inspiration. We've got more comments on social media. S. Amelia, student at the African Epsical University, says these are two separate places. The sand is a place where they can take women and girls to carry out FGM, and the poro is similar to the sande. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Now we introduce a key partner of the joint program on the elimination of female genital mutilation, funding all the work under the Spotlight Initiative, the European Union. Allow me to invite His Excellency Olaf Skwer, head of the European Union delegation to the United Nations.
Fighting against FGM and other harmful practices is a priority for us in the European Union. We're strong supporters of UNICEF and UNFPA and their joint program against FGM. We're also providing funding to tackle this issue as part of the EU-UN Spotlight Initiative. But despite some progress in recent years, setbacks as a result of COVID-19 mean that we now must double down on our efforts to end FGM. This requires an approach that engages society as a whole, and it must include men and boys partnering on initiatives that can positively transform social and gender norms. Men and boys can help by becoming allies in this fight, shaping their own communities' responses by speaking out against this harmful practice and helping educate their peers. On this International Day, we call on men and boys and the international community as a whole to step up and to finally make FGM a practice of the past.
Thank you, Your Excellency Olaf Skwer. We must engage society as a whole, and we must include men and boys partnering on our initiatives. Another valued donor partner with us today is His Excellency Jorindur Valterson, the permanent representative of Iceland to the United Nations. Let's hear from him.
The harmful practice of female genital mutilation is a clear violation of the human rights of women and girls. Human rights and gender equality are cornerstones of Iceland's development cooperation, which is why Iceland has supported the joint UNICEF-UNFPA program on FGM for 15 years. While we have indeed seen progress, much more needs to be done. In fact, we need to increase our efforts tenfold to have any chance of reaching the global SDG target by 2030. Engaging men and boys in promoting gender equality and eliminating harmful practices is key to producing results. On this International Day of Zero Tolerance for FGM, I call on everyone, including men and boys, to transform harmful social and gender norms to put an end to female genital mutilation.
Many thanks to Your Excellency Jorindur Valtison. The UNFPA UNICEF joint program is grateful for the valued support from Iceland. There's more comments coming from social media. Bukari Maman Dauda, who is a country representative of Global Youth Consortium Against FGM in Niger, says, "Hello, I'm watching from Niger. Now it's the time for all men to stand up and end FGM." We've got another one from Jackie. Who is the gender analyst at UNFPA Nigeria, saying traditional leaders have been catalysts for the change against FGM by engaging with their communities to end this harmful practice using that magic hashtag #MenEndFGM. We've got another one from Ali Sultan from Djibouti, saying in French, we translated it actually, saying, "What does she do to deserve this? It's an angel that we mutilate. It's the innocents that we torture. All together, stand up against FGM. Together, we stand up FGM." Oh, I love those comments. Keep them coming. We welcome Anton Les Gracia, the director of the Spanish Agency Corporation, another partner and donor of the joint program.
I am pleased to express Spain's support for this very valuable initiative, which promotes and raises awareness of the need to continue efforts to eliminate all forms of female genital mutilation. Despite significant progress in recent years to reduce this harmful practice, it remains today one of the most serious forms of gender violence. In all circumstances, FGM violates human rights and medical ethics for two main reasons. First, it involves a harmful practice and an intervention in the bodies of girls and women, with devastating consequences for their health. Second, it deprives them from a full and healthy sexuality, violating the autonomy of their bodies. The Spanish Agency for International Development Cooperation, AECID, is actively involved in global efforts to achieve the SDGs and eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls, including female genital mutilation. We promote women empowerment in all spheres of life and promote their political, social, and economic rights, including access to healthcare and sexual and reproductive rights. Unequal gender norms hinder women's ability to make autonomous decisions. Economic, social, and institutional barriers underpinning various forms of violence, such as FGM, must be addressed urgently and decisively. That's why we consider it essential to involve men and boys whose role is key in forms of violence prevention to accelerate the elimination of this harmful practice. The design of gender equality and education policies with the participation of men distanced from masculinities is key to increase awareness about the dangers of female genital mutilation and achieve the full exercise of women's sexual and reproductive rights, with a focus on achieving the fundamental right of having control over one's body. Spain and AECID will continue to promote a feminist development cooperation, which does not leave any woman or girl behind. We want women and girls to thrive, achieve their full potential, free from any form of violence. Thank you.
Many thanks to Your Excellency Anton Le Grazia for continuing to promote a feminist development corporation that does not leave any woman or girl behind. Let's go to social media and hear what you have to say. Teresa Ada, partnership with men and boys on positive masculinity is transformative. #MenEndFGM. We've got another one from Tony Mweba, founder of Men End FGM Network. This one coming from Twitter, says it's not a one-man or one-woman show. We need all hands on board to tackle this deep-rooted harmful practice that has persisted over time in many communities across the globe. Now, allow me to invite Asha Regna, Deputy Executive Director of UN Women, a sister agency that plays an important role with UNFPA in co-leading the Generation Equality Action Coalition on Bodily Autonomy and Sexual and Reproductive Health and Rights.
The practice of female genital mutilation, or FGM, is part of a continuum of violence that women and girls may experience at any time throughout their lives, all of which are human rights violations. We call for zero tolerance of FGM and all forms of violence against women and girls. We call for member states to legislate against this practice and to ensure implementation of legislation. Already, across 31 countries, more than 200 million girls and women have undergone this harmful, sometimes deadly practice. Global events like health crises, climate change, and conflicts are causing displacement, which further increases their vulnerability to harm from FGM. Female genital mutilation is a practice that is deeply rooted in communities' gender and social norms, and it often forms part of culture and religious traditions. Moving to zero tolerance and abandonment of the practice in order to have an impact on reality is therefore a process of working within communities and institutions to transform understanding of why such practices are harmful, and so that norms shift to retain only the positive elements of those traditions. This process of change is one that engages many sectors of the community, not only the women and girls affected. There are successful interventions to build on, which acknowledge the importance of partnering with men and boys, among others, in transforming social and gender norms. We recognize also the women's rights activists working on the front lines, who also play an indispensable role in protecting and supporting many millions of women and girls in ways which either directly or indirectly prevent harm. UN Women and our multi-stakeholder partnerships among the Generation Equality Action Coalitions, in collaboration with sister UN agencies, will continue to work together with all those who have a part to play in bringing about change in this practice. The practice of cutting a girl's or a woman's body in this way simply has to stop. We all have a right to experience the bodies we were born with and to be protected from decisions made by others that would change that experience irrevocably and harmfully. On this International Day, we recommit with absolute commitment to continue to champion those rights for women and girls and to work with all those who have a role in moving tolerance of FGM to zero.
Thank you kindly, Asha Regna. We are pleased that UN Women has joined us this year to commemorate this day. Let's go to some of your social media comments. Mohammed says he's actually a student at Ahmadu Bello University from Nigeria. Via LinkedIn says men should be taught to advocate the end to FGM. And another one coming from Nigeria, Omotayo, who is the founder of Haven Initiative. The cost for prevention of FGM is way cheaper than the cost of managing the consequences. If men and boys want to spend on the right cause and not on treatment, we need to end FGM now. The hashtag is Men End FGM, and you can comment on social media. We'll be reading your comments throughout the show. This year, as you heard so far, this day is centered around young voices in age and in spirit. Now we hear from Hyacinth Kohli, Executive Secretary at the Global Youth Consortium Against FGM from Senegal, Tony Olela from the UNFPA Youth Advisory Panel in Kenya, and Mohammed Dibase, Communication Professional at Afriyan from the Gambia.
Cette année, nous célébrons le 6 février la Journée internationale tolérance zéro contre l'excision. Et le thème de cette année nous appelle à la mobilisation et à l'engagement des hommes pour mettre fin à ce fléau. Et pour cela, j'appelle tous les hommes et tous les jeunes garçons à se mobiliser derrière les femmes pour les accompagner et pour vraiment porter la voix pour mettre fin à cette pratique néfaste qui cesse de gangréner la vie et l'épanouissement des femmes. Alors tous ensemble, mobilisons-nous pour mettre fin à l'excision au Sénégal et dans le monde.
My name is Tony Olela from Kenya. I'm a youth champion and a gender advocate, very passionate about meaningful youth engagement to ensure that we advocate for the rights of women, girls, and even boys. I've been engaging men and boys in different dialogues to champion for the rights of women and girls, engaging in developing policies, recommendations, and at this juncture, I want to call upon men and boys to be part and parcel of this conversation. We need to redesign, remodel, and reprogram existing programs that can draw information and unite men and boys. Personally, I have been doing this through my social media platforms to ensure that I pass information that involves and includes women, men, and boys. By maximizing on the use of my social media handles, I've had an impression of over 70,000 people who have developed interest in joining me in this journey. As a man, I believe in my power and my voice in ending FGM by 2030. I call upon men and boys to join us in this conversation so that we can ensure that women and girls' rights are protected. With the spirit of leaving no one behind, I believe that we can end FGM.
In commemoration of International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, I call upon all partners and individuals alike to engage more men and young boys in regards to female genital mutilation. The involvement of men in the fight against FGM is crucial to achieving the ultimate goal of a world that's free from FGM. As advocates, we must not relent. Rather, we must accelerate our engagements with men and young boys through dialogue, sports, activism, formal and non-formal education, so men can finally stop upholding harmful social and gender norms such as FGM, child marriage, sexual assault, and sexual harassment. Furthermore, I would like to call on the government to offer its support towards eliminating the practice of FGM. Yes, having laws and policies in place is only a step towards achieving the goal. Implementing the laws and policies, however, with vocal backing from the government, will go a long way in helping eliminate female genital mutilation. So, to my fellow men, your voice has weight given the nature of our society. So I urge you to join me in the fight to end female genital mutilation. Also, to everyone out there watching this, women and girls all over the globe need you. Your voice is needed, and together we can end female genital mutilation. Thank you.
You heard it. We call on all men and boys to join the conversation to mobilize resources and community allies to support women and girls as agents of change in abandoning FGM in their communities. Tell us your commitments to the cause using the hashtag MEnEndFGM. Some of your comments on LinkedIn as well as other social media platforms are as follows. Emmanuel Adiku, monitoring and evaluation at ProLink.org via LinkedIn, says men and boys need to understand the harmful effects of FGM, the physical and mental health of women. Remy Bushia says, assuming all men said no to FGM today, trust me, this fight will be over once and for all. Hashtag end FGM. And we've got a last one. Actually, yes, one last one from Emmanuel Adiku saying men and boys need to understand the harmful effect of FGM on the physical and mental health of women. I think I read that one. Now tune in, feel the music and listen to the words of three powerful feminists and activists from the Gambia, Praise Gimba, Awa Bling, and Mariam Cham, sharing their song, Cut No More.
Mususu no nyantabane, ayechamale niyo samba. Ijuso kanabamba po ayefutuo nidiatinya mane adatulo yo wahmalumnara kon paka iklan seti naror muchel chikeni chili daf ñu war tekla ada bax na wat bilorema waxuma ci dara FGM dafa wara end dafa wara FGM dafa wara end ci lu gaaw jongal jigéen dafa wara waaw jongal jigéen jongal jigéen dafa wara waaw jongal jigéen. I was born free, so let me be free to feel. I came complete, so let me live my life to the fullest. I need no chains to bound my sensations. I deserve to have it all. Cut no more pain, no more crying, no more bleeding. Cut no more trauma. Say no more, I deserve to have it all. FGM, dafa wara end ci lu gaaw. Jongal jigéen, dafa wara waaw. Jongal jigéen. Jongal jigéen. Dafa wara waaw. Jongal jigéen.
Not in my name, cause FGM ends with me. Nen ñu fépp jóg xeex li luñ songa daan mbooloo mooy doole aada cosaan waruta lore bul toog soo gisee ku koy def nan ko boole yërmande waay bu ko tooñ ndax kii xale la yow bu ko yóbbu ndax fu muy mujjee mooy suma yegoon bu màggee ba ràññee ne li nga ko defoon du yoon dina la mere trauma mun na tax mu tàggoog sa góor.
Just like our powerful women activists tell us, culture should not harm. Let us put down the knives and blades to collectively save our girls from this harmful practice. Let's go onto social media and read some more comments. We've got one from Gadiel from Cameroon via LinkedIn saying it is only joint actions of the populations that can lead to concrete actions. And I definitely agree with that. Our final speaker for the day is Ms. Catherine Russell, Executive Director of UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund.
On this International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, UNICEF calls on the global community to lend your voice and support for ending female genital mutilation once and for all. Each year, more than 4 million girls are at risk of suffering this harmful practice. Rooted in gender inequality and power imbalances, it violates their rights, harms their bodies, and limits their opportunities. The good news is we are making progress in eliminating FGM. Girls are less likely to be subjected to FGM today than 30 years ago. But we need to make much more progress much faster to meet the global target of eliminating FGM by 2030. One way we can accelerate progress is by engaging with men and boys. In many societies, men play prominent roles as policymakers, religious and traditional leaders, and caregivers. And millions of boys are active members of their communities and families. They can and do influence change. Evidence shows that men and boys are increasingly rejecting FGM. In Ethiopia, for example, a country with one of the highest rates of FGM globally, nearly 87% of males oppose the practice, compared to 79% of females. But we need more men and boys to champion this cause to end FGM by 2030. We must provide them with education opportunities to learn about the harmful consequences of female genital mutilation. We must engage with more male leaders at the community level. They can help to change the social and gender norms that perpetuate harmful practices against girls. And we must expand our work with governments to develop policies and legislation that protect girls' rights. Every girl deserves to grow up safe and free from violence, the right to decide what happens to her body, and the right to determine her future. Working together, girls and boys, women and men, we can eliminate female genital mutilation forever.
Thank you, Ms. Catherine Russell, for this powerful end to an inspiring hour. We've got more comments, one from Oluwafisawu saying men really have a great role to play in the matter. Another one from LinkedIn, Teketel, says men and women are both responsible for such a horrible practice affecting the lives of our mothers, sisters, and daughters. Men can play a positive role in the role of ending FGM, definitely. The biggest enemy, however, is illiteracy. Another one on LinkedIn saying, thank God, national contractor SBF at UNICEF, harmful practices such as FGM should be considered as public health emergency and a sharp contrast to the provision of human right and right to health. We've heard compelling and insightful statements, new commitments, and memorable stories which demonstrate strong leadership on the ground and higher up in together eliminating female genital mutilation by 2030. As we mark the 2023 International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, we call on you, especially the men and boys participating and reached by this event, to take action now and join the fight to eliminate female genital mutilation. We also thank everyone for your strong participation. We look forward to continue seeing your engagements today and this year using the hashtag MEnEndFGM. Thank you for being with us and have a pleasant day further. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ntombi Meso, and it has been an absolute pleasure as well as honor to host you today. Goodbye.